Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today I'm doing a rundown of all of the reads that I've gave 5 stars up until this point, obviously. I feel like there aren't as many books as I thought there would be. I feel like now that I read more, I'm more of a judgmental reader, or I just know what I like or what I don't like. But I absolutely adored these books and wanted to share them with you. So the first book and most recent book that I've gave 5 stars is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. They both come back to the small town they grew up in and decide to renovate a house together because she's an interior designer and he builds houses or has like a construction firm. And he's also a billionaire, so we love a billionaire romance. But this book was so good. The enemies to lovers, the banter, that they knew each other from their childhood, so you had that like childhood nemesis thing going on. Phenomenal, loved it, recommend. It also has links to the Dreamland Billionaire series, but you 100% do not need to read that before you read this book. But yeah, definitely recommend, obviously, because I gave it 5 stars. The next 2 books are by the same author, and that is Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I just eat up any STEM romance that Hazelwood gives me. Now, don't get me wrong, I did love Love on the Brain, but just not as much as these two. These two really gave me the 5-star feels. They're both kind of, well, they both are workplace romances. There's always that like pining / enemies to lovers thing going on in both of the books. There's some representation in this book which is really good. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to ruin the story, but just so good. Absolutely love them and highly recommend both of these, or just all of Hazelwood's writing in general. The next 2 books are also by the same author, and this is one of my favourite authors of all time, and that is Emily Henry. And those 2 books are Book Lovers and Beach Read. Now, Beach Read, I think, was the first Emily Henry book that I picked up and just fueled the fire of me loving Emily Henry, and that fire has just never gone out. Absolutely love this book so much from the bottom of my heart. Could I really tell you what it's about? Probably not, because I read it 2 years ago. But I know there's that kind of rivals to lovers thing going on. I believe they kind of know each other. I want to say from college, but again, I read it 2 years ago. I could be wrong. But they essentially are both authors and they swap the genres that they write in, and the other person has to write in that genre, and they have kind of a competition on who can finish their book first. And they kind of do like little tasks and things to get inspiration for their writing. But loved it so much. Definitely just pick up an Emily Henry book and give it a read and your life will be changed. And Book Lovers is again rivals to lovers or workplace nemesis to lovers sort of vibe. Nora is a literary agent and Charlie is an editor, and they both end up in a small town, so it's kind of like small town romance, keep bumping into each other, and just so good. Absolutely phenomenal. Emily Henry just never misses, just phenomenal. The next book is the last book in the Knockabout series. Now, there are mixed reviews on the Knockabout series. Again, some people love it, some people hate it. I feel like I'm in the love category, not so much on the second book. That one wasn't my favourite, but this one I loved, obviously, because I gave it 5 stars. The enemies to lovers in this book, obviously it's been building up throughout the last 2 books, so you kind of really want to get there and know what's going on. They have this feud that literally they will not talk about in their friendship group. Like, everybody's like, what happened, and they will not talk about it, but we know it's from their childhood, or at least we assume it's from their childhood in the other 2 books. So this book delves more into that, so it is not only in the present tense, but it also goes into the past, so you can see about what has happened between them. But just this book, I loved it, my favourite in the series. The next book, again, also loved this one, and this one was so good it ended up putting me in a reading slump, like seriously bad reading slump last year, because nothing matched up to this book, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Again, another small town romance. Grumpy Sunshine, he's a grumpy fisherman. She is a influencer, so she's obviously the sunshine in the Grumpy Sunshine. So Piper is from a big city, obviously, and she's an influencer, and she gets sent to this small town where she meets Brendan, the grumpy fisherman, and they keep bumping into each other. They have kind of like an enemies to lovers thing, but it's more a Grumpy Sunshine, I feel, than enemies. Like, she's not his enemy, she doesn't really hate him. So yeah, so good, loved it. and I think my favourite Tessa Bailey book so far of the ones that I've read. The next book also has horrifically mixed reviews online, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Now, I loved this book. I love a hockey romance. Again, Grumpy Sunshine, but this is actually reverse Grumpy Sunshine. So he's kind of like a golden retriever hockey player, and she is a figure skater. One of their ice rinks gets like ruined, someone like vandalizes it essentially, and they have to then share a rinks, and then they keep bumping into each other. But honestly, love this book so much, but I really like a hockey romance. But yeah, I just like Hannah Grace's writing and their friendship group and that kind of bantery thing you have between all of the characters. I also love some of the side characters, they're really funny. And I also loved Wildfire that she wrote, but it wasn't a 5-star, it was more like a 4-star for me. But this one, definite 5-star. The next book is literally one of my favourite books of all time. Ever since I read it in literally one day last year, I haven't stopped thinking about it. And that is Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. Percy goes to this town every summer where Sam lives, so it's set across different summers where they meet each other throughout their childhood and obviously go back annually, and then something happens and they don't see each other for a really long time. But then an incident happens and she has to go back to the small town, and obviously she sees Sam again. So you have the past and the present in this story. But I just absolutely adored it, loved this book, just read it in one day. So good. Now, the next book, we all love a cowboy romance, and I'm sure you've all heard of the Chestnut Spring series, and that book is Heartless, which is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series. This is again kind of an enemies to lovers. It's a single dad romance. She's the nanny for his son on this like ranch that they have, and she's also friends with the female main character in the first book in the Chestnut Spring series. Absolutely adored this book, so good. There's also the sickness trope where she gets sick and he has to look after her. Absolutely phenomenal. Cannot get over this book. I have only read up to this book in the Chestnut Spring series, but already I am obsessed with this series. Highly recommend, and we just love a cowboy romance. Now, the next book was actually my first read of 2024, so I started the year off really good with a 5-star read, and that is Lovelight Farms. So this is set on a Christmas tree farm, and it's a friends to lovers romance, also a fake dating romance. So absolutely adored it. So cute. Although it is Christmassy, I don't really feel like you have to read it at Christmas. It's not overly Christmassy, so you can really read it whenever you want. And although I'm not an epilogue girly, the epilogue in this really topped it off for me. Like the small little details that links back to other things in the book just really solidified that 5-star for me. The next book I read in the midst of the worst reading slump I've ever had, so it took me so long to finish, but I am glad that I didn't DNF it and I did finish it because it ended up being 5 stars, and that is Charlie, Love and Cliches. Although I haven't read Better Than the Movies, I really feel like people would enjoy this book if they've enjoyed that one. It kind of has that link to like other films and stuff. I kind of get the gist of Better Than the Movies, just haven't read it yet. But this book was so adorable. It's a workplace romance. Charlie knew William before, and then he turns up at her work, and her dad also works at the same workplace as her, so you have that kind of dynamic. But so good, absolutely loved this book, and I am now going to read the other books by Ella Maise. The next book is one of the first books that I've literally ever read when I started reading, and that is The Hating Game. This was an OG BookTok book, and I absolutely loved this book. It is a enemies to lovers workplace romance. The pining slash just, you just know that they love each other, like that's how much they hate each other, but it's just so good. And there is obviously a movie on this as well now, which I adored, but this was one of the OG enemies to lovers romances that I read, and so phenomenal, loved it. Then the next book is kind of like niche, I feel like, for some people. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. Now, I adored this book. It's about navigating friendships and romances in your 20s, or dating in your 20s, and it kind of just feels like getting a warm hug from Dolly. Her writing is just phenomenal, and I'm so excited to read the other Dolly Alderton books. But again, I just feel like it is quite niche, but I adored it, especially being in my 20s when I read it. It just really resonated with me. So if you are in your 20s, I do recommend reading this book, and it just really encapsulates the whole dating and that sort of navigating your life and stuff in your 20s. The next book, actually the front cover looks really funny, but this is actually the 7-year slip. And this was a proof copy that I got, which was actually one of the first proof copies that I ever received when I started my book talk. I adore this book with my whole heart. Like, honestly, I've not stopped thinking about it since I read it last June, and I seriously need to reread it. It's just so good, and I just love it so much. It's kind of like a romantasy sort of vibe, but don't let that put you off if you're not into fantasy. It's more like magical aspects. So she has an apartment that was her aunt's apartment, and then one day this guy shows up in the apartment and they end up having to share it. But there's like more of a magical aspect to it, and I don't want to give it away because it really is the whole story. So just read it, give it a read. And if you've read The Dead Romantics, which I have not, but that's by the same author, I feel like you're gonna like it. But honestly, just give it a read. It's so amazing and just one of my favourite stories ever, and the magical aspects to it just are so good. The next book, again, is kind of like a controversial one in the book world, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. Some people really don't like this book, some people adore it. I'm obviously in the adore category. I just can't get over this story. It was so beautifully written. It left me sobbing my eyes out, and just absolutely amazing. So the story is about Addie Larue. She's our main character, and she makes a deal with the dark to live forever. However, there is a catch to that deal, and that means that she is never remembered by anyone. So that's obviously the premise of the story. But then something happens, she meets someone, and yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, but then that's kind of what the story's about. Again, it's set in the present day when she's dealing with this person that she's met, and then it's also set in the past as well, the lives that she's lived over the years, and basically her deal with the dark and why she did it. So it's such a good book. I know a lot of people really don't like it. Again, this is one of the first books that I read, obviously because it's in a hardback. I never have a hardback book, but it wasn't in a paperback at the time. So but I just adored this book so much, and yeah, it's just so heartbreakingly good. I feel like I understand why people might not like it. There is a lot of like building, like description building, a bit like when you read a fantasy book, there's a lot of like description going on, but it's necessary. I feel a lot of the parts you think, why am I reading this, but it is necessary to the story, but just so good. And then the last book in my pile of 5-star reads is Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. I recently read this, and oh my god, my heart is shattered from it, like literally shattered. Tessa Hastings' writing is just phenomenal, and I am going to do a reread of the Magnolia Park series and actually go back and annotate, because I just want to be able to go in and see my annotations. But this is just such a phenomenal book. The ending absolutely shattered my heart. I knew the ending was coming because I saw a spoiler on TikTok about Magnolia Park's Into the Dark and what had happened in that, so I knew something was going to happen in this. But honestly, just again, heartbreakingly so good. If you like the Magnolia Park series and you haven't got to this book, just go for it. It's just so good. And if you haven't started the Magnolia Park series, again, this is one that's like not for everyone. I do get why people don't like it. It is quite repetitive with Magnolia and BJ, but I actually really liked it, and just Tessa Hastings' writing I could just read all day every day. I can't really go into what this book is about, because obviously if you haven't read the other ones in the series, then it's going to ruin it. It's going to ruin the previous ones for you, so I'm not going to go into what it's about, but just know that it's just so good. And obviously it's a continuation of Magnolia and BJ's story from the first book, but amazing. But those are all the books that I've currently gave 5 stars. Obviously I'm still reading, and I've got more books coming up that I predict are going to be 5-star. If you've read any of these and they're also a 5-star read, let me know. Or if you've read them and you didn't like them, like maybe you didn't like The Invisible Life of Addie Larue, or you don't like Magnolia Parks, or you didn't like Icebreaker, those sorts of things, let me know and we'll have a little discussion in the comments. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back super soon with a new video. Bye!